So Fripp right there, he posted up right there on 13th. Over there in the cut was Fat Tony and Dirty Red. So as we pull it to the side and, Buddy throw the car and park, he grabbed his fire and he, slowly got out the car. As he walking across the street to the baby mama building right there on 6-1 and 13th, he say something to Tony and Dirty Red, something like, "This ain't for y'all." Something like that if I can remember right. So he calmly walk up in the building and maybe a few seconds later, he let off. He come from off the second or third floor, calmly walk through the parking lot and get in a car, and he slowly drove off, and he said something to us like, "Well, y'all ain't got to worry about that no more." Whatever that meant. Now, like I always say, back in those days, robbers respected robbers, and, rich dudes, they respected rich dudes, and killers respected killers. I say that to say this. Back then, nobody was really soft on 61st. They had killers all the way from 12th all the way to 17th on both sides of the one. There wasn't nobody soft over there. Them niggas was definitely squeezers, damn near the whole block. But like I say, killers respected killers back then. So they knew what we came over there for, it wasn't for them. So as we drove off and we went back over there to the spot on 57, he let us out of the car and he got in the wind like always. So now, naturally, I stay out there with my dog. So now I'm working on 24 hours now. Because now I'm going to stay out there with my dog throughout his shift. And then you might as well say 36 hours because my shift going to come back the next day at 12 p.m. But like I always tell y'all, we had like a lot of energy back then, so I wasn't fucked up with it. Okay. But now, we starting to notice, a little bit after that situation happened, we starting to notice the lieutenants is coming around more often. The gunman is around more often. And even Buddy, who we was working for, he was coming around posting up. And he never did that. We probably see Buddy like twice a week. Okay. But now a little bit in apartment 7, she still doing her same routine. She get out of school, she go in the house, and then if nobody around, she'll come outside and post up. Now, right about this time, it was kind of obvious that she really was crushing on my dog. And right about this time, my best friend, his sister had to move to Brown Sub, Florida. All right, so a little bit still doing her little same 1-2 every day. Now, one particular day, she come home from school and she come outside and she post up. So maybe like 15 minutes later, coincidentally, the lieutenants, they ride up. And then a little bit after that, the gunman come. And then 30 minutes later, a nigga who we was working for, he pull up. Now, he pull up in his big Bronco. He had like an Eddie Bauer Bronco, something like that. He pull up, he park the truck, he get out, and he walk past us. He don't say nothing to us because the lieutenants and the gunmen, all of them, they was across the street at Unc Duplex. But the boss, he get out, he walk past us. He don't say nothing to us, but he go straight the little bit. He walked up on her and he slapped the dog shit out of her. Picked her up off the ground by her hair and started punching her all in her shit. I mean, she's leaking and everything. He pushed her back in the house. He slowly walked to his truck, got in his truck, and he just drove off. So now that kind of let me and my dog know, the lieutenants, which was his nephews, they had to call the nigga around and probably told him, a little bit was out on the porch. She was just mind her own business. She wasn't saying nothing to nobody, but we know where that fuck shit came from. Okay, keep that in mind because I'm going to get back to that in a minute. So now, as the boss man come around more often, he back on that whole shit. Like when I first met him, asking me, damn, Cal, how much that Fila sweatsuit cost? And then 2 days later, he asked me, well, damn, them ain't the same clocks you had on the other day. Like every day he back on that fuck shit. But I'm not, it's going over my head. Me and my dog, we not paying attention to it because true enough, when me and my dog first got around there, all the young niggas that was on the line, whether they was working back there on 57th Street or they was up there on 56th Street in the front, them little niggas ain't never want to dress. Like I can honestly say, me and my nigga, we was like the flies, young niggas around there. The niggas that was our age, all the niggas wanted to do was get fucking high. Even at 15, them niggas was like on boom. They was getting on all type of coke. They was drinking. They was smoking choppers. And when I say choppers, I mean they was, taking their Newports, dumping all the tobacco out the Newports, and they was putting coke all in the Newports in their twisted tip, and they was smoking coke and square. So that's what we call choppers. But them niggas was doing all that at 15 years old. Them niggas ain't caring nothing about dressing. They was just chasing their high. So I kind of understood, well, at least I thought I understood why the nigga kept asking me that all the time, because all the other niggas around there, my age, they wasn't dressed. Okay. So he back on that fuck shit. Okay, it is what it is. Also, we started to notice every time we'll be out there posted up and say the lieutenants will be over there across the street, whenever the crackers will come, naturally, me and my dog, we gonna scream out, Ali. Back then, that was our code word to let everybody know the crackers was, coming through. We would never say 9 in the hole or crackers on the back street. We wouldn't never say that, because if Kitchen or Willie B or Stevens or Lattimore, if they were to hear us say that, then they was go hop out and they was go act Aki, because, everybody throughout the whole city house was saying 9 in the hole and all that. We wouldn't say that. We'll just say Ali. So whenever they do come, I scream Ali to let Fat Cat them know up there on the front street that the crackers was coming from the back street. And Fat Cat would do the same thing, because we couldn't see what was coming from the front street like Fat Cat them couldn't see what was coming from the back street. So we will always look out for each other. But I notice every time I do that and the lieutenants would be out there, the very next day, the boss man will come around and he'll 21 me about, Cal, man, you be letting them niggas up there in the front know when the crackers coming? And I say, yeah, they do it for us. Buddy told me, man, if you keep on doing that, we go dock your pay. I'm going to dock your pay. Let them fuck niggas up there sink or swim. Don't be letting them know when the crackers come. So me and my dog, we looking at each other like, man, that's some real, floss shit. Like, nigga, our job is to like really, watch out for each other and get to the paper, and try not to get fucking caught. You get what I'm saying? But by him saying that, back then, me and my dog, we just couldn't figure out how, a rich nigga who was a millionaire really had time to be hating on the dollionaires. That shit just ain't never made sense back in old days, Okay. So now, as they coming around, hanging out, every now and then, they'll be saying little shit in the air like, yeah, we go call Booby Dread around here. They always say that. We ain't pay no attention to it because we didn't know who the fuck Booby Dread was. Whoever he was, they always scream this nigga name like every other day. So me and my dog, we started putting, one and one together. Okay, well, whoever this nigga Booby Dread is, he must be a squeezer or whatever, because they always saying he go come through and yada, yada, yada. And we ain't know this nigga from a can of paint, because even back in those days, whatever neighborhood you was from, like not on no gang shit, how it is today and all that, if you was getting money in your hood, you very seldom left out of your hood. I don't care what projects you was from, if you were from Scott Projects or the Village of the Graveyard or Largemont, Sabre Palm. If you was getting money over there and that's where you grew up at, that's where you pretty much hung at. You would never go to other hoods, unless you had family over there, unless you was hollering at a hoe or something. So I didn't know a lot of niggas like in Brown Sub and all throughout the city. I pretty much knew everybody in Shutterlawn. But they used to say that we kind of say, okay, well, whoever this nigga Booby Dread is, he must be a squeezer. He must be, a shoot something. But anyway, and we was kind of wondering why the fuck you keep screaming this nigga name out, because from what we knew, whoever this nigga was, he was over there at the other spot. The nigga who we was working for, he had another spot over there on 58 and like 15. He had a base house over there. And like I told y'all, coming out of 83, going into 84, you came out of the heroin era where it was a whole lot of shooting galleries, where all the heroin users will go and they'll go up in a shooting gallery and they'll just like cop all the heroin and they'll just, shoot up H all day long. But when you came from 83 to 84, from the heroin era to the crack era, all the shooting galleries turned into base houses. Buddy, who was our boss, he had a base house over there on 58, like off 15, where all the bases can come and, cop their boulders, cop their crack, and they could just post up in the base house and smoke all day, however long their bread lasted. So he had a base house over there on 58. That shit was booming. So if I could think back correctly, that's when the nigga Booby Dread and all the other young niggas over there, they was running that spot. So we didn't understand why the fuck, you always screaming, you go get him and bring him on our side, So one day, and this what I mean about how it was, so much fucking money back there, back in those days, and so much fucking coke that, niggas had to find innovative ways to get rid of it. I stand on this when I say crack did not start in the Bay Area, or definitely didn't start in New York City. And it's no shade to the West Coast and up the East Coast, but it was definitely documented and reported that the first crack house was definitely, discovered in Liberty City in like 1982. The first crack house in America. And it's safe to say that we all know that all the coke was definitely coming from like Cali, Colombia, and Medellin, over there in South America. And, it was coming through the Bahamas, and the first place when it get to America, it was in Miami. And we'll just flood the whole nation. I stand on that when I say that, Miami definitely was the cocaine capital in America back in the 70s and the 80s, and even in the early 90s. So when you got all that coke at your disposal, like definitely over there in South America and the Bahamas, the regular way of getting high, that shit kind of become numb to you. Just getting on powder or smoking lace, that shit really became numb to everybody over there in South America and the Bahamas, to where, they want to go ahead and just, search for a better high, which they, came up with freebasing. Freebasing started in South America and the Bahamas, and initially it came to Miami. And we just went ahead and took freebasing to crack cocaine and just went ahead and flooded the whole nation. So I stand on that when I say crack definitely started down in Liberty City. You're down in the crib. So as time going on, we getting to the bread. It's a whole lot of bread. Every day, $1 million days. I stand on that when I say, I never knew nothing about the 1st and the 15th. I only heard that until we started getting a whole lot of money in New York. But down in Miami, I never, Miami never know nothing about the 1st and the 15th. Every day was the 1st and the 15th. Back then, we had functioning addicts, all throughout the city. Everybody had jobs all in the 80s and the 90s. The streets really wasn't burnt out until it got like in the mid 90s and then the 2000s. But every day was like $1 million day down in Miami. Never knew nothing about the 1st and the 15th. So as we get money day by day, one particular day, it was just eerie feeling, man. It was like a black cloud just hanging over the city house that day. So as we out there getting to it, we noticed